I guess the promise of one animation a fortnight on Warhammer Plus was about as believable as Horus's oaths to the Emperor. I don't think it's a secret that there's not much on there for us, but finally, after 2 years, we get to see Iron Within. So that's good, isn't it? Of course it is. You were probably expecting me to say something different. Anything Warhammer is great, apart from maybe candles and plushies. Any Warhammer animation is very welcome, but it would appear that the release schedule isn't the only thing that's been abandoned. Iron Within was originally announced as a series where we'd get to follow two Astra Militarum soldiers, Thera and Borax, on their adventure to save their planet, which sounds fantastic. What we actually ended up with was a 28-minute, one episode, one and done. It's more like a fancy hammer and bolter than anything else. Doesn't mean they can't use the same characters in the future. Well, some of the characters, this is 40k after all, so not all of them will survive, but it's a major disappointment we didn't even get a mini-series. My expectations have been ground down over the last 18 months, so I wasn't looking for very much. Angels of Death was great, 10 episodes, good characters, nice action. The sound wasn't always perfect, but as a series it was fantastic. The Exodite was a major disappointment for me at the time because we were expecting a series kinda like Angels of Death, and what we got were 3 very short episodes instead. There was very little character development, there were really good set pieces, but it kinda made the Tau look rubbish. Now I would bite your hand off for 3 quality episodes of Iron Within, with even just a smidge of character development, instead of the shiny but short one-off that we got. That is not to say it's not good, it most certainly is. The quality of animation is mostly outstanding. There's a few jerky moments here and there, but on the whole it just looks incredible. Reflections in puddles, deep black metallic armour, really good faces on the main characters, lovely cinematography, the list goes on. One of the only downsides is the facial animations, but that's true for Angels of Death, Exodite, everything else. The fact you could build almost the entire environment with GW kits is cool too. I bet you someone tries to do that. It's all very familiar but in a very good way. Nothing seems out of place or un-Imperium-y, because it is an Imperial world it all takes place on. As with the Exodite, there are some scenes of pure 40k joy, such as the duel between Thera and a Reaver jet bike coming screaming right at her. Really great. The Drukhari are absolutely brutal in close combat. They down their opponents and then stab them multiple times. They don't give them a chance to react. The Incubi feature and they look brilliant, real elite troops. There's a Talos, the big floating guy with blades and hooks all over him. And the Dark Eldar transports feature as well, they're really cool. The Mandrakes are just creepy little guys and I love them. I went to find them on the GW store after watching this and they're not actually available anymore. I don't know if they're getting repackaged or what, but they're not there. So that was a disappointment. I actually wanted to paint up a unit of them. All in all, the Drukhari look and feel as dangerous and cruel as they should, so they've done a great job there. Very quickly, let me know if you've seen it and what you thought about it. You might even want to leave a like or subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the video. If you don't want to know about the story, you might want to skip this part. There are very minor spoilers here. The story is about a planetary defence force fighting for their lives against Drukhari raiders. They're losing, but it just so happens they've got a kind of Space Marine bat signal that they've had for 10,000 years but they've never used. So they decide to give it a go. What's the worst that can happen? Well, they could accidentally summon evil, ancient, all but invincible warriors hell-bent on the destruction of the Imperium to their planet. That would be pretty unlucky. There's a ton of entertainment to be had, but it all feels a bit condensed. The tension could have been stretched out a lot more. It all just happens a bit too quickly for my liking. The Guard are hunkered down waiting for the final Dark Eldar assault, and then it just kind of happens. Very, very quickly. Now you could look at Return of the King on how to build tension before a massive battle. I know I'm comparing a 3-hour movie to a 30-minute episode, and that is kind of where the problem lies with the whole thing. There isn't enough time to set anything up in a meaningful way. It's all a bit one-dimensional. I don't think it's a shock to anyone that the Iron Warriors feature heavily in Iron Within. The Mark II Crusade armour isn't my favourite, but it looks a heck of a lot better on screen than it does on models. The troops look fantastic in combat, they're carrying breacher shields and they move perfectly as a unit, looks really good. They're led by an anonymous Terminator, who looks intriguing, but ultimately doesn't do very much other than stand there and look imposing. The Marines all look very generic as well, which, considering that they've been fighting together for centuries or maybe even millennia, then you'd expect them to have like different bits of armour swapped in and maybe a few trophies adorning their armour, but they don't have any of that. They just look like shiny Space Marines straight off the production line. And that is another thing, their shoulder pads are really, really shiny, and like there's a big white specular highlight on them, making them look like chrome or glass, and I don't think their armour would be in that good condition. None of their Astartes show any personality, and that's not me going over the top or being overly critical. All they do literally is shoot and punch. We don't see anything or hear anything from them. It kind of works that way though. They're faceless, brutal killers, and they're a wee bit more scary for it. A major disappointment for me was not seeing the Dreadclaw drop pods disgorge their contents into the battlefield. They fall, they hit, they kick up a ton of dust, and then all of a sudden the Iron Warriors are on the ground. We don't see them getting out the drop pods. That might seem a minor thing for a lot of people, but for me, it's one of the things that you want to see. You want to see technically how it works, and we don't get to see that. Just seeing them burst out the drop pods and clearing the landing area would have been awesome. One thing I do think all the animation studios should get together and decide upon is the sound of a bolter. These ones sound different again, and I'm not sure I entirely like it. It's more like a wet thud than a proper boom, so I don't know. I might get them all together and see which one I like the best. Overall, it's a really watchable slice of 40k, but it seems very throwaway, just like a hammer and bolter. The opportunity is there to develop characters that we can get attached to over many series. We can love them, we can hate them, but it seems instead we're just getting a random battle on a random planet somewhere in the universe. Angels of Death is going in the right direction. I'd be really sad if some of them died, so that's what I want more of. I want it to build to something immense. I want tension, I want heroic moments, I want huge battles that mean something rather than just something that we're thrown into willy-nilly. I know development would be slow and expensive and subscriber numbers wouldn't really support it at the moment, but I think if we just keep getting standalone stories, it's not going to be very fulfilling. After the novelty wears off of having animated Space Marines and Xenos, then I think we'll need something a lot more substantial to get our teeth into. After all, fancy graphics have been available in 40k games for many years, so this needs to be more than that. Let me know what you thought, I would love to hear from you. I hope I've been fair. If you're looking for something else to watch, I'd recommend this one. Cheers.